You know, building on what Scott had said in his portion of the video, um, what are your thoughts about that?
Well, I enjoyed watching what Scott had to say for our initial video, and what's really interesting to me in addition is the interesting things that we've begun in the innovation table and the interesting new possibilities that are arising. One of the things that I think we're becoming more and more interested in doing and discovering that we can do is to explore, for example, what I've called the skills of the innovation skill set. These are things that, in a sense, everybody is aware of to some extent in their lives, but we often don't practice often enough or to the degree that we really can. It's things like truly listening to each other with our heads and our hearts, both head and heart. It's learning how to explore what I call the alien other, which arises for us so often in our lives when we're dealing with other people. And we really don't like or countenance much what they say or how they look or how they dress or what their language may be or whatever the case might be. It's also skills like learning how to respect each other, learning how to trust each other, and also as a result of developing those kinds of skills in ourselves and with each other, it's also about our discovering how to co-create with each other, which is a wonderful process that often is missed in American society and in our personal lives and our family lives and in business and so on. When we co-create with each other, we engage each other, and we really are interested in knowing what the other person is about. We really are interested in being open to telling the other person what we're about. We're interested in leaving judgment behind. If someone disagrees with what we say or we disagree with someone else, we're interested in creating an avenue, a context for exploring that further so that we can, again, increasingly understand each other and relate to each other and discover how we might find points in common and a context for working together. These things are emerging for us in the innovation table, and as a result, what we're discovering is how we can come together in community in new ways. People these days, often in the media and so on, talk a lot about how politics is broken in Washington and heavens knows in many other places in the country as well. And one of the things that I think we're increasingly discovering with the innovation table is we're discovering potentially a new way to do politics, for example, but we're also discovering much more widely than that how to come together in community in a new way, how to create what can be called deep community with each other and discover how to move forward from that. And it's interesting for me to see in all of the various events that we're creating and in the innovation table sessions themselves, as we have the chance to have more and more conversations, how people are coming forward with interesting new projects, how our innovation table on ground is evolving and expanding. People are saying, gee, it might be interesting to move in this direction more, to expand this direction, that kind of thing. As I say, people are coming together and proposing new projects, new initiatives, and in the course of people doing that, I think what is also happening is people are discovering how to touch new parts of themselves. They're discovering, even though they may be quite pleased with the way they're living their life currently and with their profession or whatever the case might be, they're also discovering that there's another part of themselves that they may not have touched as much in their lives up to this point. Perhaps something that they were passionate about when they were 16 or 20 or something like that. And they're discovering how they can use the innovation table for that as well, so that they can enrich themselves, they can enrich their community, they can enrich the other people that they're in dialogue with, and so on. And this is something that's vital to this entire emerging experience as well, and that is that people can come together to create a dynamic whole, which is a whole that's very alive. And also, this dynamic whole is something that we create with each other when we discover how, in relating to each other, to relate to each other and then to create solutions where there are problems or where we want to create new initiatives. To do that in a way that creates the maximum benefit for everyone involved. So everyone can really sign off, everyone can really feel that they're doing something that is not just a compromise for them or that kind of thing, but it's something that they really want to get involved in and really want to maximize their effort to become a success. Another thing that's really interesting at this point with our emerging process, as Scott mentioned, is the on-ground Be the Solution forums that we have staged, that we've sponsored. Those forums are being attended by more and more people. People are coming together, and what we're discussing and for me this is really intriguing, is if we're going to be the solution, either for our own communities, for example, or for the entire world, if we're going to be the solution and we want to commit ourselves to doing that, what does that concretely mean for us? How do we actually do that? What do we need to learn? In what ways do we need to grow? What do we need to birth? What do we need to let go of? And that's a very, very much organic emerging process for us. And as a result of that, there are two avenues, for example, that people are discovering it makes sense for them to pursue, and for them to pursue in tandem, as it were. On the one hand, people are realizing that if we're going to be the solution in life, and that is to be the solution not in the sense of looking at problems or even considering mainly challenges, but being the solution right from the start, and being the solution in its positive and as practically effective a way as possible, what do we need to do inside, in ourselves, in order to make that possible? That's one of these major facets. As one gentleman said at one of our forums the other night, so often in our groups, which are very, very well-intentioned, not so much our Be the Solution forums, but other groups around the country and so on, where people get together, is we tend to think, let's change the other guy. Let's change the situation externally. Let's do this or let's do that. But we haven't often yet realized we also need, if we're going to make positive change externally, what we need to do in ourselves in order for our personal growth to be maximized and to do what the psychologist Abraham Maslow called becoming self-actualized. That's becoming a more and more realistic proposition these days for more and more people. And the last thing that, among the many things that are now occurring that I think is worth mentioning today, is our Innovation Table website. What we have wanted to do on our website, which we just recently launched, is to take the whole social media concept the next step further. I'd say the next logical step further, but it's also the next psychological step further. And what we're doing on our website is inviting people to come together to create a virtual community where they can link, as you might in Facebook or Twitter or other places, and where normally they might share fairly small or incidental experiences in their lives or that kind of thing. We're inviting people to come to our website, and we're inviting them to have a really interesting dialogue about really interesting subjects, and frankly about changing the world, about being the solution. And we want to give people an opportunity to talk very frankly and interestingly and with increasing sophistication and power about how they can be the solution once again in their own lives for what they're going to do in the next 5 minutes as well as what they're going to do in the next 50 years. We want to give people an opportunity to explore together how they can be the solution in their own communities and all local communities, how they can be the solution nationally, and how they can be the solution in terms of the entire world and the entire planet. I was saying to one of our groups the other day that I think sometimes in American society today it's almost regarded as a foolish question to ask how can we be the solution for the entire world. The world's a big place, lots and lots of people, multi-billion population at this point for humanity. And so some people might well say, well, it's far too complex, number one, to ask that kind of question seriously and to seriously think we can answer it. And number two, there are so many government agencies and so many countries involved, and they are not us, and they make all the decisions, so there's really no point in really even posing the inquiry. But I think our group has a different answer. We believe it's not only possible to ask that question, but it's vital, and now is the time. Because governments finally have to be us. Nations finally have to be us, and we them. We need to be the world, and the world needs to be us. So we're walking in all of those directions, and what I can, I think, honestly say at this point is the things that we're talking about today as new developments and intentions and so on are totally true, and by the same token, by this time next week, they will probably have evolved further. And in that regard, I want to mention one other thing, and that is the innovation table, the individual on-ground innovation tables that we have created are now expanding into new tables with new groups. And one of the things that is also happening is there's a group in New Hampshire which is not coincidental in terms of the wonderful influence and the wonderful role that New England has played in the history of the United States. There's a group that has now begun in New Hampshire, and they are exploring interesting additional possibilities about how to create community. And they are actually, as we have talked about doing as well, I think they are actually going back to the founders and the sentiment of the founders of the United States. And they're exploring, very interestingly, very seriously, and with a lot of enjoyment, what that kind of founding situation might look like today in the 21st century. So we're beginning to establish links with those and other groups as well, and hopefully to continue to move forward in wonderful ways. And we invite everyone who views this video to come on board, check out our website, post to our website, explore where either an innovation table might now be meeting, or perhaps check with us and to see what's involved to starting your own, because we are open to those kinds of expansions as well. And simply, if you wish, just getting in touch with us to share your comments, your ideas. We're definitely interested in hearing from you, and we're definitely interested in being proactive with you. Thanks.